Hi, everyone. Back here for another live with you. So excited. Today, we're talking about the Akashic records. What are they? What can we use them for? All sorts of stuff. Um, I remember I had already been on my journey. I had already been into spirit guides and I was playing with meditation. And a funny thing was happening to me. I was doing readings for people and I started to feel these past lives. Like basically I would meet somebody or oh my earrings falling. I would meet somebody or be with a client and I would get these flashes of a lifetime that they had, which I had never seen before, but I knew about past lives, which um if you guys are interested, I love the book Journey of the Souls, and Many Lives, Many Masters is kind of what opened me up into past lives and understood that, and it was very helpful. So just throwing that out there. um so yeah, I started to see past lives and I was like, what is happening? And I just I just felt like I needed more information. And then this word Akashic records, well, two words, just came into my experience over a couple of weeks. I just remember seeing the somebody mentioning it or seeing it somewhere, having no idea what it meant, but knowing that I needed to know about that thing. I was like, somebody needs to tell, I need to know what that is. And then this teacher came into my life, Linda Roberts, who I love, and she knew about the Akashic records, and she was the person that was going to bring me into the records. So I started working with her, doing coaching sessions, and ultimately learned about the Akashic records and why and what it was used for. And one of the reasons was to view past lives. So you can view past lives in many different ways. I actually studied hypnosis when I was first getting into this work, and I learned to do past life regressions in through my hypnosis program. But what I love about past lives and the Akashic records, it's you just have more control, you can see more, all that kind of stuff. So that's how um, that's what led me to this world of the Akashic records, and it changed so much for me. So what are the Akashic records? So there's many different explanations out there, and I encourage you to keep studying. I'm going to tell you my experience. I go into the records a lot, so this is my experience of what the Akashic records is. So from what I understand, the Akashic records is an energetic place where all of the information of our soul exists. So I'm always no big deal. It's this collection of energy of, they say, past, present, and future of all that is, which I know is kind of hard to understand. But I feel we don't have to get caught up in other people's stuff. I think it's important to just know you have a place there that has information about you on a soul level. There's a lot of other things you can do out there, especially as a practitioner. If you want to start reading the records for other people, then there's more stuff to be known. But at the first level, it's really interesting to know that you want to think about it as a library room assigned to your soul. So there's information about your past lives. There's information about what you are at a soul level. You can find a soul's purpose in there. You can find a soul's path and a soul's contract. So actually, when I do my readings, I go into the Akashic records to find those things for my clients. So it's super fascinating. And so, the next question is well, how does one read one, or how does one go in? And there's definitely books on how to go in. I heard, I've not done this or read this book, but I heard that there's even a book where you say a prayer and you get in. I did not learn to get into that when it was calling me, because I feel a lot of times these things call us, because I remember I always say that it's a remembering. I feel my soul was just remembering that there's this thing called the Akashic records, and I basically attracted the information into my life. I felt I needed somebody to take me there, and that's also how I attracted my teacher, Linda Roberts, who brought me into the records for the first time. And still to this day, when I teach people, I teach them through my certification program called Soul Reading Method, and I bring them into the records. So I find that that's the most helpful way to get in, almost like a buddy brings you. It's almost like a club that they have a card and they bring you in, and then eventually you get your own card. I have found that to be the easiest way to get in, but I'm sure, I know that there's other ways. So now remember that everything is energy. And when it comes to like intuition stuff, I know that we try to give things physical forms. So like yesterday we talked about spirit guides, and when you visit your spirit guide, you may see a physical form, even your higher self. You're like, oh, I see it as myself, but just more advanced looking or whatever that may be. And remember that like none of that physical is actually real. We're just giving it a physical appearance. So like maybe I am seeing my spirit guide. I keep using the same example as a Native American because that's the physical form that like that I'm being given. But the truth is like none of that really matters. It's the energy. So with the Akashic records, it does have a physical form that people usually see it one way. So what it's typically seen as is a library. So it actually, when you go into meditation and you start visualizing, you will most likely see your version of a like a library big building. I see it very white, and I actually see it almost like I'm in the States. So I don't know if you guys have ever been to the New York Library. It's like really beautiful, long stairs. That's kind of how I see it. So like almost like just like from that time basically. So you can maybe see it a little bit different, but the reason we like give it a physical appearance is because as you develop your intuition, what you're doing is you're learning to hold focus on energy. And if I just say like imagine the Akashic, like hold your focus on the Akashic energy, the Akashic records energy, you're like, where do I hold my focus? Like when we need to hold a focus, we actually need to like hold it on something, even just something like if I tell you hold focus on my room, you're like, well, where? Like whatever. But if I say like hold focus on my water bottle, then your third eye is like, okay, I'm putting all my focus on this water bottle and I'm trying to read the energy of this water bottle. So that's why we can't just say like Akashic records is energy. We actually say it's a library, and actually you have a library room so that you can learn to like hold focus on the building, eventually books, because you read books while you're in there. And the physical is just giving us a place to hold our focus and actually read the energy. So first thing is that you're going to probably see it as a library or as like a big building. You're going to walk in with maybe a teacher. It could be a guided meditation. I mean, I have tons of Akashic Records guided meditation. If you guys are interested, nikkinovo.com. And once you're in there, then the first thing you're going to meet is like a basically a librarian kind of looking thing, like almost like a receptionist area. And that is really the keeper of the records. So that's like this, again, like a spirit guide that oversees like all these records. And you basically meet with her, you ask for a key, and you can start going into your room. So in your room, I always see it as like, I don't know if you guys have seen like Beauty and the Beast. Like that's my picture of this library. It feels kind of circular to me. I've been into a lot of different people's Akashic records, and it definitely all looks a little bit different, but it's still just like my vision of a library. And then once you're in there, the first thing I teach is like we explore the room and different things that you may see. But eventually you're going to start like assigning different areas. Like there's an area for where you can find your soul's contract and your soul's path. And then there's another area where you can find like the book of purpose, which is basically a book all about your soul's purpose. You can find books on your past lives. So let's say you've been struggling with finding a relationship and you've tried it all. You're like, man, every time I like try to get into a relationship, it doesn't work out. I keep having this pattern. I've done all the things. I've been to a therapist. I've healed, but it's still like kind of like chronically not working. At that point, you may want to consider a past life reading, because there may be something in a past life that needs to be healed. And you can go into the Akashic records and find the past life where like that first that it was the first time this chronic like thing started to happen. Like when was the first time I started to have a hard time with relationships? Like show me that past life. So basically what would come forward is a book. It looks like a book. You hold your focus on the book, you go into the book, and basically the next thing is like a visual of the past life will start to come forward, and you're going to basically watch the past life almost like a movie, and you'll start to see like what happens and what might be still stuck, like what are some patterns that are continuing that came from that lifetime. So there's like a lot in the records in the past lives. It's just one of them. But the way it works is like you call forward a book that has to do with that, with the thing you're asking about, and you hold focus on the book. So it's like you close your eyes, you imagine the book, and you're like, okay, like if this book could talk to me, if it had something to say, what would it be saying? And that's where you're like gathering that information. And there's all sorts of books. Like you can actually, there's like the book of love, and you can go into it and see like where you're at when it comes to love, or the book of money. And it's just all this information about your soul. And it's almost like a lot of messages for like specifically you. In addition to like your own Akashic Records room, there's also just other rooms in there. So there's like rooms where you can meet your spirit council, like the guides that have helped you like create this lifetime. There's rooms, just all sorts of like, just the more curious you are, like you can like leave your library and go into other rooms, not other people's libraries. You need permission for that from the person, but there may be other rooms that you have access to. And there's all sorts of like cool things like healings and things like that that you can see. So the information in the Akashic Records is literally endless because that's the concept. And people say that I don't use it so much for that, but you can also see like you can look into some future stuff. And remember, future is always possibilities. So it's not like set in stone, but you can go in there, and because the idea is that like your life has already happened, everything's already happened, and there's only like one moment, and we exist in that one moment. So you can see some of that also in the records. So yeah, it's kind of like a trippy place. And I know it's like, I feel like almost until you go into it, you can't really understand it, or it could be hard to understand it. But does anybody have any questions about what I'm saying? Are we like super out there? um, Anything that like, I don't know, that you're like, this doesn't make sense to me or anything like that, that I can help answer? I'll just kind of wait here in the chat for you guys. Yeah, I think the Akashic Records is just like great if you want to know more about your soul, because that's like really where the information is. Because you can get, you can even like, learn to like read energy, or, connect to spirit guides or things like that. But the, it's almost like kind of like imagine a diary being left behind, about that you left behind, but you had amnesia and you forgot everything. But you can go and read that diary and get more information about who you are at a soul level. So that's why the Akashic Records can be very helpful. I feel like that's kind of like, I'm almost feeling like that's like the most I can give you about records, guys. So I'll just wait for a little bit to see if you have questions about it, or if you can like leave in the comments for me. I can make more videos, but that's the Akashic Records. Oh, yay, we got a question. I tried having a reading with someone and she came back to say that she couldn't open my Akashic Records. Is that possible? Yes, that is actually possible. And I'm going to tell you why. So I see your name as Drala, if that's okay. I'm going to say that, or Drala. So what's super interesting about old, like very strong souls, they'll sometimes block people from like you don't know you're doing it, right? Because at a human level you don't understand that you're doing it, but you can block people's access to your records at a soul level, because it's almost like your soul doesn't really trust the other person that's reading, because your soul may be like older, wiser, you might just not be remembering. And then you have kind of like set up like protection around your record, so that only the person that you're really at a soul level ready to let in will be able to get access. Also, as a reader, um, readers sometimes encounter that like which is funny. It's like, let's say you book a reading with me, and even though you're paying and you want the reading and you want somebody to read your Akashic Records, you might have still like locked up your records. I have to know at that level to then, that will be part of my meditation, to be like, okay, I'm going to go into this meditation. I'm going to talk to your soul, and I'm going to ask for more access. And I'm going to like, kind of like be like, hey, like your human like really wants this, and I see that it's like locked off. Like, can you please like give me access? And always, every time I do that, they like put down the guards and I'm like allowed in. So so yeah, just like uh I would my feeling is that like for whatever reason, like where maybe that person was at, um wasn't going to like deliver you the messages that you needed at a soul level. So your soul was kind of like protecting itself, if that makes any sense. It might be cool to learn to get in there yourself. Because that's the sign of like a very old and advanced soul. Only like old souls can do that. Like that means you have like a very strong handle of like energy and stuff. So it might be cool for you to study it yourself. Does that make sense? It's a great question. It's just so funny what our soul is doing versus what our human is doing. And like how the soul, that's what I love about like even like raising children, like, yeah, they look like 4-year-olds or 5-year-olds, and they're obviously mental capacity is at a 4 and a 5-year-old, but the soul can be so old and be doing like so many other things and can be so much older than you. And we're just doing so many interesting things at a soul level often. So Drala, I think your soul is probably very cool. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Yeah. I'm just like interested, like how much people are interested in the records and like how much information do you guys want? I think the next step would be to take a meditation to get into the records yourself. But I would say that from teaching intuition for years now, I do believe that the records, actually, even when I hired my teacher, I was like, okay, Linda, I'm ready to go into the records. And it like took me, like, she would not let me in for like 6 weeks or something. And I was super frustrated. And it's hard. And she was like, you're not ready. You're not ready. And I was like, always annoyed. But I have learned that since energy, like what we're doing with intuition is reading energy, right? Like when we're in the records, we have to know how to read the energy of the records. I have found that reading the Akashic records is like lifting 50-pound weights. And while like learning to read energy at a very like kindergarten level, at like the first level, is like lifting 5-pound weights. So it's like if I started off by trying to lift 50 weights but I've never done 5-pound weights, it's going to be really hard for me. So the Akashic records is kind of like the big leagues of reading energy because there's a lot of energy there. And so I would say like you work up to it, and eventually, and like you first start off at what I like, it's just like learning to read energy. So the way I teach is I like to teach people how to read the chakra centers that are on your body. So I don't know if you've ever been to like a yoga class and seen like those colors, those like little wheels of color on a body. So those are like little points of focus. So I can be like, okay, guys, we're going to read Nikki's third eye. So everybody close your eyes, picture Nikki's third eye, and like, what information are you getting from there? And that may not seem as fun, but it's training. Hi, Lori. But it's training people to then be able to hold focus long enough to read like a book in the Akashic records. So I would say if like you're feeling called to like want to see what is in your records for you, you want to start off by like learning to read energy, and then ultimately you build the muscle strong enough to be able to read the Akashic records. Or you can just have, if anybody wants a reading of their Akashic records, on nikkinovo.com, I have a directory, and everybody who's like some of the women that have studied under me, they do these amazing readings and they can go into the records. So you can also do that. You don't have to know how to do it yourself. It's like going to the salon. Like sometimes you just want somebody to paint your nails. Like you don't have to do it yourself. Lori, I love working in the records. I used to think only special people could do it, but you taught me that we can all learn to do it. It's life-changing. Yes, Lori, that's true. It's just there's this feeling that like only like certain people get access, but I think that's like a misunderstanding. We get to build the muscle to get in, and just like, feel worthy of being there, and just like the practice of like being in there. Lori does great Akashic. She does great readings, and part of it is the Akashic records. If anybody needs a reading, she's right here, Lori. All right, guys. Unless there's other questions, it's super fun. I've done my YouTube live 3 days in a row right now. And it's just fun to be here with you guys and like in real time and get chat and stuff like that. So thank you. If you have any like additional questions, just put them in the comment and I'll make other videos or other lives and we'll just keep learning together and having fun and seeing what else is out there. All right. Okay, everybody. Love you much. Thanks for being here with me. Bye.